Hey folks, Rex Bear here with Leak Project. I'd like to thank you very much for joining us for this broadcast. We have guest Chris Kehler with us tonight. Chris is a holistic practitioner, quantum healer, radio host, researcher, and philosopher. Following a unique system of dowsing, Chris discusses his abilities to pinpoint the root of someone's health problems in a relatively short time. Many of the underlying health issues today, Chris says, is caused by negative energy buildups. Witchcraft, black magic, voodoo, astral tarot cards, and the reptilian influence, or what some call demonic influence. Mr. Kehler pulls away the layers like an onion to discover the key cause. If you'd like to know more about Chris and his techniques for helping others, check out his website at www.chriskehler.net. That's www.chriskehler.net.
Chris, it's awesome to have you on the show tonight with us. How the heck are you?
Hey, Rex. Doing perfect. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, fantastic. Really looking forward to it. I know you guys reached out to us here at the Leak Project a little while ago, and I just absolutely love what you do. In many ways, I'm so anti-establishment when it comes to forced vaccines, forced medications. I think that the concept of a vaccine is a good idea, but the stuff that they put in it, like the thimerosal and the squalene and who knows what else is in there, certainly I don't think is a good idea. But so I wanted to talk a little bit about what you do, and if you would tell our listeners about who you are and how you got into this stuff.
Well, my name is Chris Kehler. I'm located in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, as we were just talking about. It's about minus 20 Celsius today, and we're known for being called Winterpeg, and that's why, because it does get that cold here. And we like it because it keeps the housing prices way down, so you can buy a real nice house really cheap, okay? I got started in this let's call it a industry, about 10 years ago, and before that, I spent the 28 years in the printing industry. And about 10 years ago, my first wife, unfortunately, passed away. She had a rare disease called scleroderma. And when she passed away, about a year after that, I realized that I was in a position where if I want to stop working, I could stop working if I wanted to. So at 47, I retired. Okay, I was lucky enough to be able to just quit working, live off pensions, and just go. So I found myself going to coffee shops and places where all these old people are talking about nothing at all but their health problems. And I met somebody, make a long story short, I met somebody who does this type of holistic healing, working with the energy, working with muscle testing and different types of modalities to discern what a health problem is. And there is something inside me, and I think we all have this, that told me, Chris, this is something you need to pay a lot of attention to. So I did, and having nothing better to do because I'm retired at 47, I started taking some courses. I started meeting some people who do this type of work, and I picked up on it really quick. It was really uncanny that I was able to get to where people took 5 years to do. It took me 6 months to be able to muscle test for herbs and to find health problems and that type of thing. And it just progressed to where I met the people I'm working with now who make the crystalline energy tools that I use, and who have the knowledge and the insights to go to certain levels within the universal energies to know how to work with it, how to manipulate it, how to use it for you and against you and that type of thing, and to actually get rid of a health problem, number one, and number two, be able to actually give a person a diagnosis that's real, that's 100%, that's not something made up by the medical community to make themselves sound smart.
Well, when I was looking at your website too, there's so many new age practitioners out there that say, hey, you just tell me what your name is and your birth date, and I'm going to send you energy and heal you. And there's a lot of disinformation out there. So it can make a lot of people extremely skeptical. And one of the things I really like about your website, Chris, is when you go on there, you can look at like the different pictures of problems that people might have. If you look at it under a microscope, their blood, I'm referring to. So
yes.
you're actually getting into some of the scientific stuff here, and I appreciate that. But what I think would be great to bring up here at the beginning, if we could, especially for the skeptics out there, is what exactly is it that you do? I mean, if quantum healing, obviously, if you know much about, or even just a little bit about quantum physics, you know that everything is connected at some point. And with that being the case, that would explain how somebody could transfer energy or consciousness to something else and cause healing. But, explain quantum healing to us and get into some details with us, if you would, please.
Okay, there's there's a few general ways I like to use to describe exactly what's happening. The way I do my work is number one, I use a system with a pendulum and a series of charts that I've developed to dig deep into the whole concept of what is your health problem. So if you have cancer, what is your cancer? What is causing it? What's all the underlying causes behind it? And it goes from everything from negative energies such as witchcraft, voodoo, ET, aliens, and so forth that are in part of the health problem. And then we get into things like fungus and mold and reasons why the cells are mutating, and it gets into those depths. And the pendulum that I use shows me exactly what it is, and it gets there very quickly. Sometimes it takes a few sessions to help somebody. Sometimes one session makes a big difference. But with somebody's health problem, there's always many layers to it. And that's what we do is we peel away all the layers, ask the questions with the pendulum, get the answers, and then when I do find out what the problem is, we need to get rid of it. Now, here's the woo-woo part, is what a lot of people call it, is what I do is I use sacred geometry. This I'm holding up, it's called a Vesica Pisces. It's a form of a pyramid, okay? And this facilitates the 4D and 5D energies that are now in the planet, and it also facilitates the feminine energy that's in the planet. And what I do is I hold this up to the camera, and 99% of all my clientele are in other cities and countries. And so this is called distance healing. Okay, in Winnipeg, people just aren't into this, so I rarely have somebody in my office. So we do this on Skype and on the telephone. I have clients all over the world: the Middle East, the UK, Australia, lots in California. People in California are crazy about this stuff because it works. Now, what I do is I make intent. Everything in our lives is all about intent and thought. Our thoughts are so incredibly powerful that we can actually intend that somebody gets sick. We can intend that somebody gets healthy. We can intend that we're financially stable. We can intend that anything happens in our lives just by our thoughts and the way we project them. So that's what we're basically doing, is taking a thought and intent and magnifying it, amplifying it through this device into the system to move out a stressor. So let's say I'm working with you, you have pain in the right side of your abdomen, and my pendulum says that you have a virus, a shingles virus in your liver. So all I do is I take the pyramid, hold it up to the camera, and I tell the virus to go away. I say, in the liver, shingles virus, false. I say the word false. The frequency of this virus no longer then exists. And for the most part, probably 90% of all people feel that pain go away almost immediately. They feel a change in their energy, and that is a telltale sign that the energy is moving. Things are happening. So that's the basis. It kind of works along with the law of attraction. If you can envision the law of attraction, you put out a positive thought that you want something to come into your life. This is working basically with those same God energies that are there for us humans to utilize. It's a gift for humanity to be able to manifest whatever it is we need in our life. And if manifesting good health is one of them, that's where I specialize, is to help manifest your health to get better.
Well, and I remember back in 2009, I read a book called Pyramid Power by Patrick Flanagan, and it talked about the sacred geometry, and if you build a pyramid to a specific, to certain specifications and had it aligned to magnetic north, then it would actually create a harmonious environment, almost feng shui-like. There was a lot of data in there where they did experiments where they would put a pyramid over one part of the house. If there were pets there, the pets would always go sleep under the pyramid. And a patent that came out, I think it was in Czechoslovakia or something like that in the late 30s. It was a little carton that somehow kept razor blades sharp longer. So I started doing some experiments, and I had an opportunity to pick up some pyramids by Nick, the pyramid guy, and I got a 42-inch one and a few other ones, and I just checked out the effects of it. I can't get into too much scientific data, but I can tell you this: we had a cat, and the cat would always go under the pyramid, and it was so it was pretty cool. We moved it around, and it would kind of follow it. So I think that there's some neat things there, but I'm just wondering how it actually affects somebody, if it's the vibrational frequencies or what.
Well, there again is a lot of different theories as to what's happening, what's it doing, and it's for the most part, it's all about the geometry. So if you look in the universe or all around us, there's geometry everywhere. There are spheres, there are cubes, there are rectangles, triangles, pyramids, tetrahedrons, octahedrons, double pentaoctahedrons. There's all these different forms of geometry
Right.
that in the universe mean something. That they all carry a certain energy. It's like a lock and a key. Okay, so if you're trying to battle off the Arcturians or the gray aliens, you might want to use a certain geometry over another. One's more effective on another. Ultimately, the geometry is a big component. Okay, now for my purpose, I can use a few different ones. The pyramid is a main one that I use. And now there was a different pyramid that I was using. It was a 5-tiered pyramid with many crystals and different magnets and different geometry within it that facilitated a certain energy until all of a sudden the energies changed so that there's no longer a masculine energy in the planet. It's now a feminine energy. And that's what this facilitates. So we changed the geometry a little bit. We tweaked it. And it now has a much different purpose. Now, with the pyramid, a lot of people talk about the pitch. So on this pyramid, you can see that there's 4 sides, and the pitch on the pyramids of Giza are, I believe it's a 6.71 degree angle from top to base. And what that angle means in geometry in the universe is that it locks the Earth and humanity into a 3D plane. Now, there's a lot of talk going around about the 5th dimension, about the higher level of consciousness. We are now into that level of consciousness, the age of Aquarius, if you will, the grand shift, the convergence is here. Now, this pyramid is at a slope of 7.62, which opens the door for 4-dimension and 5-dimension healing. So we've changed the geometry on this a little bit to go to higher levels. So the key has been adjusted. The teeth of the key have been adjusted to fit into a different lock of a door that we want to now open. So the geometry is key. Now, the way I like to describe this pyramid is that it works as an antenna for quantum energy, which is the 0-point energy that's all around us, and it also acts as an amplifier for my intent. So when I'm using it, it goes to much deeper levels. So let's say, our body has 7 levels of energy. When somebody is doing Reiki or some other type of modality, it may only go to 4 levels deep. Now, if you don't go to the full 7 levels, then you're not getting the whole problem, and then the problem comes back. That's why a lot of people, when they get an energy healing done, they feel better for 2 days, and all of a sudden they don't feel good again. The problem comes back. So that's what this device is great for, is getting right down to the very root of the problem, extracting the whole thing, and then it can't come back and reinfect.
So are you referring to like the chakras?
The chakras, the aura, the causal bodies, all of our energy bodies all around us, they're all in play when we're working with energy. The chakras, they used to have a lot of validity, but the chakra system as of late has really been changed a lot. The old chakra system that we had, some of us still have, is a reptilian chakra system, so the reptilians can have control over us. Okay, we are here for the reptilians, for their use as slaves to them. That's the basis why humanity is here, and those are things you need to understand when you're doing this type of work, so you can really know what's going on and why a person is sick. So our chakra systems have been converting to a higher level chakra system, which is no longer called a chakra system, it's called the hot. So this is where the energy goes in and it creates a hot system that really works.
Now, you brought up the reptilians, and there's, I remember several years ago, I read, this is what first brought me to the possibility of there being another race of people on the earth. David Icke, I read that book called The Biggest Secret, and you either love the guy or you hate the guy. I take everything with a grain of salt, and I appreciate the information he put together in that book because it certainly makes you question things. So whether I believe it or not, I don't know, but I can certainly say that he did put a lot of good evidence in there to make you say, hey, there certainly could be a reptilian race. So let's talk about that for a minute. Now, you say that we were created for them, and the chakra system is for their control. I think George Kavasilis kind of talked like that a little bit at one point too. So could we get into that, please? That's incredible.
Yeah, again, to understand what's really going on with somebody's ill health, you have to know about all this stuff. And my research, when I use my pendulum, I get a lot of channeled information, let's say. And I get a lot of understanding as to what's happening. I talk with a lot of other people. Now, anybody you talk to, David Icke, David Wilcock, Chris Kehler, George Kavasilis, they're all going to have a different version of the same story. There's all going to be a different twist on it. One person's going to have this involved and missing that. But as intuitive healers and intuitive people, we all get to have a piece of the puzzle, and that's the key thing is that there are different universal laws in place that prevent us from knowing everything right away, because otherwise they'd have to kill us, okay? And that just wouldn't be a good thing. So we're allowed to know certain things to help us along. If you ever watched the movie The Hunger Games, they kept on dropping little parcels down from the sky to help them out, give them a little hint.
Right.
Okay, and that's what we get as humans. Now, the whole reptilian concept is for a lot of people, it's a lot hard to get your head around, to think, okay, so we're here as humans, where are these reptiles then? What's going on? Well, they work at an etheric level, at a vibration that we can't see. Now, there are a lot of people on the planet who can actually see them. They can adjust the vibration in their vision that they can see them. I've seen one close up and personal right here in front of my face. I was in the midst of a sleep, and he was right there looking at me, and I was half awake, and I was lucid. I knew what was going on. I just kind of looked at him with my third eye and said, "Boo!" He got out of there. He was not ready for that. So I have seen them personally. When I work on a person with a health problem, and one of the contributors is a reptilian inside their body, and we all have one. When I get rid of it, all of a sudden a person feels better. All of a sudden they notice that they feel lighter, they feel clearer. So that's how I know that there is definitely that the reptilian population is around us. A lot of the channelings I get is that their base is on the planet Saturn, and they come back and forth through wormholes, and they interact with us, and they cause a lot of the wars. Now, as humans, we have emotions. They do not. And what our emotions create is a food source for them called loosh. And this loosh is created when we have hate, when we have anger, when we have fear. And they can inflict these emotions on us by causing something to happen within our lives, and then all of a sudden we have these emotions, and it's dinner time for the reptilians. Okay, that's the basic on how it works. They also use us for experiments with our DNA, and the gray aliens are really big for that. They love to get into our DNA and manipulate things and change things and splice things. Here's a for example. There's been this show on TLC about this guy in some tropical city who has skin that looks like a tree. I think we've all seen it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. This gentleman, this poor guy, has had his DNA spliced with something else, a tree, another animal, or something that has caused all this. Because ultimately, there's no rhyme or reason why somebody's skin would look like this. Okay, his parents didn't have sex with trees and raise saplings. It just doesn't happen that way. This is a clear-cut case of DNA splicing. Now, and if you look at any other extreme health problem like this, there's always going to be some DNA manipulation at the chromosomal gene level that is causing all of this, and it just gets more and more deeper and deeper and mind-blowing. The more questions you ask, the more answers you get. And with the work that I'm doing, I do this, 9 hours a day, 5 days a week, helping people all over the world, and I have to ask the big questions. And the big answers are, yeah, you're going to have to pull out some extraterrestrial energies. You're going to have to resplice the DNA back to a normal human DNA. You're going to have to do all these manipulations within a person's energy to help them get over this health problem.
And you're talking about the DNA manipulation, and I wonder if the these grays or whatever that I've heard about so many times. I've got a good friend that actually claims he was abducted in Mexico, and he lived in Mexico for almost 20 years. He said he'd even come on my show. He has no reason to make something like this up. I mean, he's a multimillionaire. He's not trying to gain anything from it. So just to put himself on the line like that is pretty awesome. But he's having issues now. Like he's having issues with his hands where he can't close his hands all the way, and he thinks that there's something connected there.
100%. And again, this is what I do for a living. I research all of this, and there are people on a daily basis who call me up and say, Chris, yeah, I know I've been abducted. I know these things are happening because I've seen things in my dreams. I've sensed beings around me while I'm sleeping, and I can't move because I'm paralyzed. And there's 100% chance that 90% of all humanity has been manipulated one way or another with an abduction. Now, let's go back to 1952. John D. Eisenhower signed a treaty with the gray aliens on a battleship that the gray aliens will give the U.S. technology, computers and that type of thing, anti-gravity and different things like that, weaponry. And in return, we will let the gray aliens abduct certain humans on a certain basis to do experiments. Well, the whole thing got out of hand. Everybody broke the treaty. Everybody didn't live up to their end of it, and now it's all cattywampus. People are getting abducted left, right, and center. I'm dealing with somebody right now in Winnipeg who's in the hospital who has nonstop seizures because of this. Okay, she gets abducted. People watch her get abducted. They see her laying there and she's talking to somebody and something. She's taking names, she's taking numbers, and all of a sudden she's going into seizure. Okay, and it's well known that this family has got some kind of energy connection with this race of beings. So we're seeing it firsthand. We're seeing it happen. We're seeing the health problem. We're seeing all the manipulation that's going on that's really causing this. And shame on you governments for allowing this to happen. Number one, just because you want some technology, it just makes me almost ill to think that our governments, Canadian government, American government, UK governments, everybody was in on this just because they wanted a little bit of knowledge.
And so let's talk about that for a minute. There's a lot of speculation that Parsons and Crowley, when they did some of their occult rituals back in the 40s, opened up like a Stargate or some type of dimensional portal that allowed what we would consider the typical alien, aka gray, to enter our dimension. So, but then you get into the reptilians and the possibility that they've been here for a much longer time, and now people say that the grays are working for the reptilians. So, what is it? Which part is correct?
Yeah, and that's where all the disinformation comes in. That's where there's a lot of lies that are created, a lot of disinformation, so to confuse us, so we don't know the truth. Because once we know the truth, then we can deal with it, and as humans, we can intend that these things just leave. Okay, we can blow them up. We can take their universe and just crush it with our thoughts. We can do that. It is possible. That's why we don't have all this information. What I have learned is that the Greys and the Reptilians were taken over a long time ago by an artificial intelligence, such as the black goo, that type of thing. And it's more so a fungus. And this would fall under the Morgellons type of thing. So the proper terminology is a pathogenic predatory fungus that took over the reptilians, took over the Greys, and controlled them. That has since lifted, like not too very long ago, because the energies right now are changing so very quickly. Everything is moving out. Everything is on its way out because we're entering this new age of convergence, the age of Aquarius, the whole new consciousness, that things are changing on a drastically fast basis. The fellow who actually makes these tools in Alberta, Canada, his job is to go into consciousness, and he works about 4 or 5 hours a day running energy into the earth grid to clear it out for the ascension to happen. And to do that, he sits in a bathtub all day long, and he says it's like, Chris, you're sitting in a bathtub of water and you got your finger in a light socket for 4 hours a day. That's what it's like for him to run his energy. And he's the primary of 12 people who do this on the planet. So the energies are changing very quickly. So anything that was relevant, let's say a year ago, is no longer relevant. So a lot of teachings, a lot of books, a lot of philosophies are now washed out. And that's what I like to do, is find out the new answers every day, the new knowledge. So as far as the Greys and Reptilians, one day I was working, all of a sudden, I'm pulling out Greys out of people like crazy. It's like popcorn coming up. I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? Where are all these things coming from all of a sudden? I talked to my mentor, my tool maker, Wayne, and he says, yeah, the artificial intelligence was lifted off of them, and now they can leave. Now they can make up their own mind, and we can actually tell them to leave, and they'll leave. So that's where they come from. How long have they been here? There have been species of aliens coming to this planet for millions of years. You look at Göbekli Tepe, you look at all of the pyramids, you look at all the pyramids in Bosnia, all around the planet. You look at all of the geometry, all of the, like Stonehenge, everything. These are all ancient artifacts that have been here for millions and millions of years, okay? You look at how everything was put together. On my radio show, I interviewed the Bosnian pyramid guy, Dr. Smogelevic.
Yeah, great guy.
Yeah, we had a great conversation about it, and the whole concept of all this.
Doesn't he think that? Sorry to interrupt, Chris. I was just going to say, doesn't he think though that the pyramid's like 12,500 years old?
Oh, they're very old. Okay, there's all different ages of pyramids all over the planet. You look at Mars. We can see pictures of things on Mars, for crying out loud.
Right.
On the moon, there's stuff. So ultimately, to answer your question, how long have these aliens been coming here? They've been coming here for millions of years, and I think we are the sixth seeding of humanity on this planet. Okay, you look at the Mayans. Where did they go? The Egyptians. Where did they go? They their consciousness got so high that they were taken off planet, and then let's create some new humans and have more experiments, have more fun, yada yada yada.
So you don't think that the human archetype is at par with the reptilians? You think that they actually do you think that they made us in in a laboratory similar to the Sumerian tablet translation of Zechariah Sitchin?
Yeah, I believe that we're created with about 6 to 12 different species within us. So they took a little bit of this DNA, a little bit of that DNA, and created, the human, okay, the way we are now, just to see what would happen if you combine all this stuff together. And of course, they're looking for warriors, they're looking for soldiers, they're looking for a being to help fight their wars. And if our thoughts are so powerful that we can blow up a universe with a thought and an intent, what can we do as a weapon? Okay, so everything is about weaponizing, and that's what the black goo is about, is weaponizing, and it got out of hand. So the whole concept with what percentage of us are reptilian, our chakra systems are part of our DNA, is we have a reptilian brain. Okay, that's the how, where it goes. And then if there are people who actually, they're called shapeshifters, and who will actually go in and out of form of reptilian, and those are people who are more than, let's say, 75% reptilian, that they can actually change their shape. And it's said the queen is a shapeshifter, but I don't know about that. It's to me, it sounds a little far-fetched, but anything's possible when you're talking in this world.
It's interesting too, because there's so many videos you can go on YouTube, and it's the reptilian overlords. You can see them transform, and
Yeah.
95% of them I think are fake. But there's a couple on there that really have made me go, wow, is that possible? And I talked about this the other night on one of my programs, where where Bush and Clinton were actually doing a commercial for Haiti, and Daddy Bush is looking in the camera, and he can see himself on the monitor, and as he's talking live, his eyes start to go all cat eye. Like, you can see the pupils shift and everything, and he can see it happen, and so he looks away from the camera while his eyes are shifting. So that's a very interesting video.
It is, and of course you have to take it with a grain of salt. It's like, did I just see that? Was that some kind of lens flare? Was that something that really happened? Didn't happen? You really have to use your own judgment, just like seeing a UFO in the sky. You have to use your own judgment. Did I just see what I saw? And of course, everything on YouTube is there, and 90% of it is crap, but a lot of it's got some good validity to it too. So you really have to have a strong intuition. You really have to do the research and come to the realization that this stuff is really there. When I started getting into this work, I was looking for viruses within people. I was looking for bacteria infections and the cause of diabetes and that type of thing, nutrition, herbs, and started coming to the realization that entities start coming up all over the place. Voodoo and witchcraft are huge, and the reptilians are big into witchcraft. They can conjure something, they can make something happen through spirits. And that's what witchcraft is all about, is getting a spirit on this planet to come in and do the dirty work for the reptilian. That's the way it works.
So how many reptilians do you think there are around us every day?
That's a question. Now, okay, so let me answer that by saying this. If you know a group of people, let's say you have a group of 10 people that you see on an ongoing basis, and there's 3 of them that are always argumentative, 3 of them that are always very negative, 3 of them that would love to see harm come to you, 3 people that are just like, where do you get off thinking that way? Though they're probably very reptilian manipulated. They are probably reptilian. Reptilians love war. They love confrontation. They love to stir up that emotion to create the food that they want. So how many? Right now they are leaving in mass droves. Okay, there is a big exodus of the Greys, the Reptilians, the Archons. That they are on their way out. And how do I know that? I see it in my work. Lately, my work has been getting easier and easier and easier because a lot of these beings are leaving the planet. They're leaving our bodies, and you can tell when one leaves your body, because all of a sudden you feel very dizzy for a second and you feel nauseous. That's a sign that a reptilian or some type of entity being has left your body.
Now, also too, with the media having so much influence on people's personalities and everyday life, I think there's 6 corporations or conglomerates now that control over 90% of what you see on TV and in the movie theater, the sports, entertainment, the music industry, etc. And I'm wondering how much influence that actually has in creating these, perfect environments for these reptilian entities that you're talking about to just latch onto and feed off of.
Well, of course, and if you look at the media, the computer sitting in front of me right now, what I'm using to talk to you with is alien technology. Okay, where it started from and where it's gone in the past, 15, 20 years is just leaps and bounds compared to when humanity first invented the wheel. So they are very influential in a lot of things. Now, we'll be talking on Skype, all of a sudden it'll go dead. We'll get the line back up again, it'll go dead. It happens many times with me. And this is an energy or an entity within that line that it does not want us to communicate. So what I've got all around me, I've got my energy tools, and the energy in this computer is very high to keep these out so that we can have a good conversation. I do that with my radio show. I do that with the clients I work with, and I keep the line open. I keep it clear. Otherwise, things can get in and out. But the influence through media, the influence through movies, the influence through a lot of things has a lot of, let's say, witchcraft type energies within it to cause something to happen. A lot of people talk about the implants. Okay, Ron Armatron is big on the implant scenario, and we all have some kind of etheric implant, let's say. So if you're watching something on a video, if you're watching a specific video on YouTube or a certain channel, something could click. Something could all of a sudden turn on where that implant all of a sudden makes you think differently. All of a sudden gives you an idea that you need to go out and take a gun and shoot down 20 people at a school. Okay, that can happen. That does happen. And the governments are doing this a lot too because they have that technology.
Do you think they did that to James Holmes?
I think there's an extremely good chance they did that. I mean, there's a reason why the government wants people dead. You look at the whole JFK and Marilyn Monroe thing. Listen to Stephen Greer. He's got all the information in a file, all the real information of why he was killed. Okay, now it's because he had information he was going to leak to the public, which the government, the deep government, did not want anybody to know.
And with that said, you've got the opportunity to meet so many people around the world with the work that you do, and you help them get out of these certain states to heal themselves. So, talk to us about some of the more incredible experiences that you've had before, where you've had a client maybe come to you and what you've seen.
Well, basically, Rex, I see it all. Okay, just today I have somebody in New Zealand. I did her first appointment, and she's suffering from Huntington's disease. Okay, where the cognitive function of her brain is slowing down, and she has trouble speaking and writing and different things. So I start working with her with that, and there's anything that's neurological. What I find is bovine fever, and that is the same thing as mad cow disease. And when it gets into humans, because of the DNA splicing within cattle, and you can look, there's all these different YouTube sites of cows being mutilated, like surgically, with in the middle of a field, and these are ET taking cow DNA, and they're using the DNA and they're manipulating us with it. That gets into our nervous system, and I've moved the bovine fever from many people's nervous systems. All of a sudden, they can walk better, they're stronger, and a lot of health problems go away. It's big in diabetes, the whole bovine fever thing. I'm working with a gentleman in Scotland. Okay, he was a quadriplegic. He can now move his arms. He can now manipulate his fingers and pick up his computer and move it. He's getting ready to take his first steps. He knows it's going to happen. But we've been working very extensively with him. And again, his onion is huge. And you got to get all those layers down to get to the very bottom to find out exactly why this person is a quadriplegic. So, that's a big one. On a daily basis, I work with people with heart problems. Okay, different viruses in the heart, sodium buildup, calcium buildup. Basically, Rex, you name it. Now, a big one that I work with that people don't understand is depression. Depression and anxiety is all to do, number one, with the soul. Okay, that if you're disconnected from your soul, and there's about 4 different connections that need to be made within the soul matrix, that if they're disconnected, you go into depression. Okay, and simply just by clearing out the soul, moving out some stressors, some entities, some negative energies, and then just making the intent to reconnect the person to their soul, reconnect the soul to the well of souls, reconnect the well of souls to the foster system, reconnect the foster system to God of love and light, all of a sudden you have joy coming in. Okay, you feel happy. You feel like, okay, something has been missing. Here it is. This is what we've been looking for. And I worked with somebody today like that. All of a sudden they started to feel the joy coming in. Now, when it comes to anxiety, and we all go through anxiety, you got to clear out the sympathetic nervous system. And that's finding all the negative energy stressors within it that are causing you to have this anxiety, to create the emotion to have food for the reptilians. Okay, so again, you need to understand exactly where it all stems from, why this is being created within you, and you also need to understand how come you have a health problem in just one specific area of your body. Okay, so you have a virus, but only in one area. Why is that? That's because there's a witchcraft spell, there's a voodoo spell, or something of that nature within that area that attracts all the pathogens to your body. Okay, it makes that area of your body weak. You get sick in that area. It brings you down. You get ill. You have to now go buy pharmaceuticals. You know, have to do all kinds of things to try and make yourself well again. In the meantime, creating all these emotions within you, your family, the people around you, for these reptilians to have food.
Well, I find it fascinating as far as when you brought up the food source, you called it loosh. I've never heard
Yes.
that term before. And, I certainly don't know what is on the other side because, I'm not there right now. I can only see 0.01% of the electromagnetic light spectrum, but I certainly have seen things there before that, shouldn't be there. I've maybe seen somebody's aura before or something like that, colors emanating from them, etc. But it's interesting because I've wondered before, what is causing these emotions for some people. And it's like there's got to be something behind the scenes, and I've always referred to them as archons just because when I read the Gnostic texts,
Yes.
it made sense to me. I'm certainly not religious or Gnostic or agnostic or anything. I don't, I wouldn't classify myself as anything, but I just thought some of those texts made sense. And then when you think about these emotions and something behind the scenes feeding off of that, it certainly makes sense why there's always global war and destruction. And this planet seems to just be at a very dark cycle for something or someone.
Yeah, the whole cycle, and you said it right. We were going through this cycle of anger, of hate, of war, of creating, we're spending trillions of dollars on war, but yet our people in our own country are starving and homeless. Okay, you really got to try and figure out where the priorities are here. And war creates money. Okay, if there's a decline in the economy, create a war, you'll make a whole lot of money. Okay, that's where the governments come in, Mr. Dick Cheney. That's how that works. Now, of course, when there is war, the reptilians feast. There is bloodshed everywhere. There is emotion. All those emotions are there for them to go in and gorge. They're going to live off that energy for a long time. Okay, and of course, all the wars are fought about oil. What is oil? Oil is black goo. And Howard Kautzvella came forward and talked a lot about the black goo as an artificial intelligence, as some kind of manipulative waveforms of thought that get into the population. Okay, so these wars are fought at different levels too. There are many stargates on this planet that people are fighting over, that different governments, different levels of the governments are fighting over. Our sun is a huge stargate. Okay, listen to Daniel McBolin, Sergeant Daniel McBolin. He's going to be on my show tomorrow night. We're going to talk more about CERN. We're going to talk more about different energies, about the wars that are being fought right now at this very moment around our sun. And if you're watching LASCO C2 and C3 NASA telescopes, you can actually see things happening. There's a lot of things that you would see and go, what the heck is that? That's not a comet going into the sun. There's pictures of Jupiter-sized planet going very close to the sun. Okay,
Right.
these pictures are there. Oh, believe me, they are there. They can't be manipulated.
Well, I've seen some with wormhole looking things connected to the sun, like it's, funneling the energy.
You know what? The sun is a lot more than heat and light. Okay, it is a stargate. It is the corona of the sun is hell. Okay, it's a lot of things going on with this little star of ours that we don't even realize, that we don't even know.
That brings me to the next question then. If you get into the pyramids of Egypt, the great pyramids of Egypt, and the way that they're aligned, and then you've got the apex and the esophagus and everything else, there's been a lot of speculation that they were either used for, like power plants almost. I've heard that there's so many different things out there. But one of the things that I've wondered, Chris, is if they could have possibly been used for certain people of certain classes to be able to transfer their consciousness into the sun or a different sun from a different galaxy that was almost like a spiritual stargate or something like that.
Oh, well, absolutely. And you have to, when we're thinking about the pyramids, you have to consider anything and everything could be possible because, of course, we have no knowledge of what they were really used for and how they were used. One of the best scenarios is that they were used as an energy plant, whereas water would run underneath the pyramid and the gold capstone would create a vortex of energy down the sides of the pyramid. So it would start off as positive ions on top, and as it comes down, it would transmute to negative ions, which is a positive energy. It's very important for chi, very important for health and life. So yeah, you can't. They could have definitely used it as an energy source to power the cities and whatever power they needed to do whatever. And of course, as a teleportation type of scenario. Now, one thing to consider is the sun. Saturn used to be the sun trillions of years ago. Saturn was the sun. Okay, maybe even longer than I don't know. I'm just throwing a number out there. If you look in, there's a lot of philosophy about Saturn. That Saturn, if you go on YouTube and you look at a channel called Sun of Saturn, SUN of Saturn, there's a lot of very intelligent philosophy about Saturn and its real purpose for humanity and for this planet. Was there a lot of back and forth with Saturn? I'm sure there was. Probably a lot of back and forth with a lot of things. Probably this pyramids used to activate stargates to go and bend space and do different types of things. And you can go on forever talking about what it could have been used at, what they might have been, and who built them, why they built them. The whole concept of the geometry, it is extremely close to the belt of Orion. Now, Orion itself contains a constellation called Vesta, which is the home planet of the Greys and the Reptilians.
Also the inner rings of Saturn, there's certain moons like Iapetus, Mimas. If you look at those moons with the photographs that are available via JPL and NASA, you can clearly see that they look almost identical to the Death Star. And we had Richard Hoagland on the Leak Project the other day, and he talked about some of his theories and such about a Type 2 civilization possibly that was wiped out many years ago because there's just so many structures, not only on the moon, but on Mars, like you talked about, that looks like artificial design that's just incredible. So I wonder if, this is what I talked to Richard about because he thinks that everything got wiped out. But I wonder if there was a certain amount of individuals or people or whatever that got away from this great war and was able to continue to build upon their technology and advancements while what was left of life across the solar system had to rebuild at almost a primitive state.
Well, come to mind comes the Atlanteans and the Sumerians, the Lemurians. It's said that there's a species living within Mount Shasta in the States. There's a lot of talk about underworld cultures that live within the earth. So of course there's out of a full-scale nuclear war, there's going to be survival of something. Full-scale astral war, full-scale alien war. There's going to be something surviving somewhere. And you have to think that of course they kept themselves going, they kept their society going. The big concept is Atlantis. Okay, they're finding more and more of these cities under the water, a lot more archaeological finds under the oceans that are you can't explain why they're there at such a depth and that type of thing. Again, this is something that fantasy can really take over. This is something that again, I'm going to have one piece of the puzzle. David Icke's going to have a piece of the puzzle. Everybody's going to have something to contribute. The stories don't always line up, but they're still along the same wavelength. They're still about the same thing in certain ways, and you really have to, number one, open your mind to realize that something like this did exist. Okay, and are we ever going to find out the truth about it? Maybe someday, if we ever get to that point consciously, we might know about it. Now, does it really matter? I don't think it really does matter exactly what happened, 20 billion years ago with other societies. I mean, as humans, we're inquisitive about why everything works, about why are we here, why do we breathe air, why is the sky blue? We're always asking the questions, and I don't think the question will ever get answered because I don't think if the answer was there, we'd ever be happy with it.
Well, there's always that search for something new and something more. The just deep essence of self to want to explore and find new things. So, and I think that's a good thing. So, it certainly keeps us on the search for other opportunities.
Well, and that's, with the work that I do is trying to find that the cause of a health problem. That's what I'm doing is the answer for me is never good enough. I need to find the deeper answer. And, the whole thing with bovine fever, I was, one day doing my meditation with my pendulum, and one day it just spelled out, look for bovine fever. And I was like, what? Bovine fever? What the heck is that? Oh, that's kind of sounds like mad cow disease. And I looked at some videos and did a bit of research on it and started asking the question towards some people. All of a sudden, yes, there it is. Move out the energy, the person got healed. So that's when you get the answer. You get that epiphany that leads you into more questions and to more realizations of what is really out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we could now kind of get into some of the what you do as far as the healing of ailments, etc. I've got a very close friend that has had chronic migraines now for 50 years, 45 years, and like literally 3 days in a row, sometimes weeks at a time. And she's done everything that she can think of to do, and it's not really getting much better. So
yes, see something like that. Now, I do a lot of radio shows where I do demonstrations, and people call in, and we do a quick 5-10 minute clearing of something. And to me, I really don't like to do that because sometimes it opens a door that needs to be closed, and you might have to go in and do further. But ultimately, with migraines, there's a few things to consider, and there is the negative energy component, which is going to be a witchcraft spell, a shamanic spell, voodoo, or some type of negative, like sometimes I find a tarot card that has been placed on somebody, etherically, of course. So once you move off that negative energy, and then quite often there might be something demonic. Lucifer exists, Zeus, all the Greek gods, and they are basically a form of a reptilian. You move those out, then all of a sudden now you've got sodium buildup in the brain. Now you've got calcium buildup, calcium crystals that cause a lot of pain, and like shards of glass within your brain. And when I work on somebody with migraines, that's generally what it is. Sometimes it's a blood clot. Sometimes it's blood flow blockage within the veins and arteries in the brain. And you have to really dig deep with the pendulum and get all of the answers that are involved. Otherwise, it doesn't work. And that's the only drawback with this work is you really have to go to those depths to really find out exactly what it is. Now, sometimes we can just make the intent for the person's migraine to go away. Okay? Shall we give it a try?
That'd be fantastic. Absolutely.
What is the person's name?
Her name is Bonnie.
Bonnie. Okay. Is Bonnie listening right now?
No, she is not.
Okay. I want you to envision Bonnie.
Okay.
I'm gonna run the energy through you onto Bonnie. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Here we go. So we're just gonna take the pyramid, and within Bonnie, Rex's friend Bonnie, migraine headaches false. Migraine headaches false. So all we're doing is making the intent for the frequency to just disappear. Within Bonnie, migraine headaches false. And it usually takes about 30 seconds. Okay, that's starting to release. It's rocking me back and forth. That way I know it's working. Migraine headaches false. Now, if anybody listening on a podcast or live right now has a headache or a migraine headache, migraine headaches false. Okay, that energy is releasing. Now, Rex, did you feel any kind of sensation at all as I did that? You might have felt a tingle. You might have felt some kind of energy movement in your body.
I did, and I don't know if that's placebo or what, but I certainly did.
Well, and the word placebo gets thrown around a lot. The words mind over matter get thrown around a lot with this type of work. But ultimately, okay, so I held a pyramid up to the camera, said the words, you felt something in your body. There's really no denying that the timing of it all had something to do with energy moving in your body. So now when you talk to your friend Bonnie, you're going to ask her, did her migraine go away?
I am, and I'm really looking forward to it. That's awesome for you to do that, Chris. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem. It's what I do.
And so you also have a lot of other stuff you work with. I was hoping you could talk to us about some of that. Like, the radionics machines, the organite, etc. Let's get into that. That's awesome.
Well, radionics is let's call it an artificial form of changing and manipulating frequencies. When I'm using these tools in my intent, I am working with God energy. I'm working with a consciousness. When you're working with radionics, such as a Skio or an Indigo, and the machine I have is called an EQ1111. It's more of a manual type of machine. It's not a computer-driven model. You're working with frequencies, the actual vibrational frequency of what the problem is, and there's a lot of trial and error involved with it, and that's what I was using before I got into using the energy tools, and I did have some success with it. I use it now to charge wristbands. I use silicone rubber wristbands with a hologram that I can charge homeopathic frequencies or different things within. When you wear the wristband, you get your medicine, so it's a vibrational form of medicine. The organite is something I sell on my website. And I have a student of mine, and I teach people how to do this work. You go on my website and you can see the course. It's a $2,000 course, but you get everything that I have, and I give it to you for $2,000, and I teach you how to do this. Okay, so it can be done. I've got about 14 students all over the world that are doing very well with it. So I've got the organite, and that's one of my students who makes it, and he makes a very good quality. So I thought, hey, this would be great on my website. The organite is great for transmuting what we call DOR, deadly organic radiation, from negative to positive. And many people are into organite, creating cloud busters and to put in a room of a house to take it from an energy where a lot of people argue within a family, and all of a sudden you bring in the organite, and all of a sudden there's a lot less arguing going on. There's a lot more love in the room, if you will. Some of the other energy tools that I have are a set of rings called the sun ring and neutralization ring. I sell these like candy on my website. They're extremely easy to use to help change the energy in your body. If you're intuitive and you know what to work with, you can use these rings to help change and manipulate the energy in your body to raise it, to get rid of a health problem, to facilitate a healing that I might be doing with you. So the rings are extremely powerful, and they sell like candy. I also sell a pyramid. It's a triple pyramid. And the concept of the triple pyramid is that if you look at the base of it, you would see a geometry of the Star of David, which has its own type of healing energy. Okay, so I've got quite a few interesting things. Some of the wristbands I have, I charge for sleep, which work very well. If you have problems sleeping, you wear one of these wristbands, you're going to sleep like a baby. I have one for balancing female hormones. What a concept! Balance female hormones. So when you get your when you get your time of the month, when all of a sudden things go a little crazy upstairs, you wear one of these wristbands, and all of a sudden things are nice and smooth. My wife swears by them, and love her for wearing it. Thank you so much for wearing it. Yeah, and they really do work. And I don't sell anything unless it works.
Well, so what have you noticed with, you said you've been doing this for about 10 years.
Yes.
What have you noticed over the 10 years has changed? I mean, have there been certain elements that people have came to you more towards now versus 5 years ago?
I'm seeing a lot now of people wanting to clear out their law of attraction, to be able to manifest financial abundance, to be able to manifest love, to be able to manifest the right person in their life, the right job, and that is something that can be done if you know where to look within the energy. There's the law of attraction, there's a crystal body, there's the manifestation matrix, and what I'm doing now is really bringing people up into their own manifestation. Is activating two new energy bodies. Now, everybody knows about the Merkaba. It's kind of a double star tetrahedron, one on top of another, and they spin at different rates, and it's basically a vehicle for astral traveling. Now, when that is always activated, what I'm doing now is I activate the Merkava, and then I activate the Merkana. And what this does is it activates third strand DNA, which contains the God chromosome for manifestation. So this is something that people are catching more and more on. People who work in a job where they're in sales and everybody around them is doing fantastic, but you couldn't make a sale to save your life. You make these changes to remove out any negative energies that are trying to stop you from accessing the law of attraction, to stop things from manifesting. All of a sudden, things start to get a little better. All of a sudden, you know what? The sales are starting to come back up. My web sales have been down for a couple months, and I thought something's wrong. I had a look energetically at my website, and somebody had put a tarot card on my website to stop my sales. So I removed it, and I felt a tingle through my body, and I knew that there was something trying to stop my website from being successful.
Now, were you able to find out who did that?
It doesn't matter. Okay. A lot of people want to know who is it? Who put witchcraft on me? Who's thinking negatively about me? You may not want to know. For the most part, it's usually a reptilian ET that is doing it. Okay. But there are people out there like Aleister Crowley. Okay, the big guy. There's a lot of people who practice witchcraft who would love to see you fail because they get more brownie points in the dark side for doing this type of thing. Okay, their energy gets higher, they're able to manifest more themselves, and people are just have these dark souls that need to create turmoil for people. I've got a few clients in California who work with somebody who is very dark, who asks a lot of personal questions at her store about their clients. And all of a sudden, they're getting sick. All of a sudden, people around them are getting sick. All of a sudden, life sucks because this person knows about you and can take that information and use it against you.
It's crazy that you just said Aleister Crowley, because it seems like his name gets brought up in almost half the interviews that I do. I spoke with Daz Smith a few days ago. This guy is one of the best remote viewers I've ever had the opportunity to talk to. And I asked him about the most frightening sessions that he's ever done. And somebody had him remote view this like sexual black magic ritual that was done many years ago. And it was Aleister Crowley and some other people. And the thing that frightened Daz out so much is he's only had 2 encounters in his, I think that he's told me about doing remote, and he's done thousands of remote viewing sessions, but 2 of them, the object or what he remote viewed actually saw him. And that was one of the cases, and he said it just freaked him out. So it's interesting. You bring up Aleister Crowley because the media seems to just bow to him like a god. You know, the Beatles put him on their cover. You know, Ozzy Osbourne sings the song Mr. Crowley, and just so. Do you think that Aleister Crowley is still do you think he's in hell or like some type of different dimension and just feeding off of this ritual that he created back when he was alive here, or what?
Well, the question, the answer to that is yes, absolutely, and you know, more harm can be done when you're dead in spirit than you are when you're alive. Okay, because you can sneak around corners. You know, if you consider that Hitler still may be around in spirit, Jack the Ripper still may be around in spirit, and you know, just causing ruckus. You know, you have to consider the whole concept of a lot of spirits who aren't, let's say, crossed over, and they're still wandering around the planet looking for something to do. Okay, is Aleister Crowley still a dark demonic being? Of course he is, in a very big way. And there's lots of people doing his type of work, going onto YouTube and learning how to do a seance, taking a picture of somebody burning black candles around it and saying certain words out of the satanic Bible to create a negative force of energy around somebody. People are doing it left, right, and center, thinking it's a lot of fun, but in actual fact, they're probably killing somebody.
Well, and some people are better at it than others, you know, just the power of thought, you know, like you said, everything's connected at some primal level. So, or, you know, so to think continual bad thoughts, whether it's having a bad day or thinking bad thoughts towards something else, there is at some level an effect. So
yeah, now to explain that, you know, in a nutshell is for the last many thousands of years, the earth has been governed by dark energy. Where we thought it was, you know, God, love and light that created all of this and is here for us. Well, of course he hasn't been here. Look at everything going on. Look at all the bad stuff happening. That's why it's been so easy for people like Aleister Crowley and anybody else practicing the dark arts for them to generate something negative, to create something bad to happen, because those energies were there for them to play with. Okay, they were accessible. Now the times have changed. Okay, so just in the last, is going to say few weeks, last few months, things have changed where now a changing of the guard has happened, where God of love and light is now in charge again. So all of these dark energies are gone. They're on their way out, and the whole train is coming to a stop and going to start going forward instead of backwards. Where love and light is now in charge, and it's going to be a lot easier to manifest something positive, manifest a healing, something positive you need in your life. So people who are practicing the dark stuff, you know, good luck. Your energies are getting a lot lower, and I double dog dare you to try and throw something at me, because you're going to get an ass whooping.
So so you don't think that people like Aleister Crowley or, you know, Jack the Ripper, when they die, you don't think that they have some type of conscious rebirth or a, you know, spiritual cleansing of some type? Do you think that there's that possibility, or do you think people like that are just going to, you know, continue to be a force of the dark or of evil?
Well, the spirit, when a person dies, the spirit, if you don't, number one, if you don't know you're dead, you can wander around thinking, oh, how come nobody's paying attention to me? Okay. And you can get, a spirit can go into somebody's body. So let's say you go to the bar and there's a lineup of people there and there's a bunch of spirits that want to go party and they can't experience the whole concept because they're in spirit. So they look in the lineup and they see somebody with a crack in their aura. Then they can get in and now they can get into the bar and they can enjoy feeling the drinking alcohol, feeling smoking cigarettes. They can enjoy all that again. So of course, a lot of these spirits that are still hovering around are looking for people to jump, to create. Possibly somebody like a Sad or somebody of some kind of warmonger, somebody who gets jumped by one of these people, one of these spirits, to continue their thought process, to continue their world of hate within somebody else. So now they take somebody over, almost like a zombie, let's say, where all of a sudden a person is thinking differently, a person is having something else going on in their life. We've all heard about people with multiple personality disorders. That's what this is many different spirits coming in and out and showing themselves through different personalities.
Oh yeah, now we're talking about the fracturing of the conscious mind into different personalities. I talked about this the other day. Serena Williams, one of the most amazing tennis players in the world, she has multiple personalities, several, and she doesn't know which one it is. That she doesn't realize when she's at one point or one personality, she doesn't realize there's other ones out there. So someone that truly has that multi-personality disorder, you're right. Maybe there is some type of entity in each fraction or each section, and that's interesting. That would possibly correlate with more evidence. There's been a lot of cases done on people that do have the multi-personality disorder, and one personality, they'll be just completely wasted, blood alcohol content of 3.0, and then they switch over to the other personality and there's no alcohol that can be found. So that's incredible.
Yeah, and there's also there's dimensional jumping. There's all kinds of things that happen on such a level that we don't understand with energy that come into play. That everything, one, you might have five different things going on: multiple personality, dimension jumping, time fracture, split soul, all kinds of things going on that create a lot of the big scenarios going on.
So what do you think spiritually? I mean, do you believe in the Abrahamic texts, or what's your philosophy?
Well, I was brought up as a strict Mennonite. Okay, the name Kehler is a Mennonite name, and in Manitoba, Canada, the Bible Belt in the country is very big with Mennonites and that type of philosophy and religion. And from a very young age, I knew that something was wrong. I just could not get into going to church every Sunday. I could not get into the whole thing with the Bible and praying. I just couldn't get into it. So I consider myself a spiritualist. I consider myself knowing that there is something out there that we need to tap into. Is it God? That's where I am right now. That there is a God of love and light, and there's many other gods. Okay, there's all of the demigods, all of the Greek, Egyptian, and there's a lot of reptilian gods that come into play. There's the God of time, God of the sun. There's all these different what we called gods that when we're praying, are we praying to the right God? Where is that prayer going to? Where are we making the call to? So I do know that there is something out there that is going to all of a sudden benefit humanity. Whether it's love and light, whether it's a frequency of 428, whether it's whatever. There is something there. There's a consciousness. And I am aware of it because I do work with it on a daily basis. I do get a lot of channelings from it. When I talk with my pendulum, that is the consciousness that I am talking to. And I know this because of the messages I get are pure, they're true. And I have had Lucifer and the devil come in and talk to me through my pendulum, and I just tell them to get lost or not welcome, and they get lost. So I know when the consciousness is on or off. Okay, that's very much a given. I do know that there is going to be a break given to humanity because we've been put through the ringer so tight for hundreds of years. We've just been manipulated and taken advantage of, and shown such a dark side of who we are and what can happen. You look at torture, you look at pedophiles, you look at pornography, you look at all these things that are going on a negative concept within humanity. You just have to know that there is something out there it is going to look after us. It is going to say, hey, you know what? Everything is okay. We're going to take care of you. So that's where I am at with spirituality. Religion to me is something that's man-made. Christianity, Buddhism, anything with a name to it, to a religion, is something man-made, and anything man-made is designed to manipulate whoever is following it. Okay, so I don't really follow religions. I don't condemn anybody for following religion, because that's how you've been brought up, and that's how you believe things. And I do work with people with very strong Christian beliefs that we work with their energy. We use it to help them move on, and we don't interrupt their belief system, because it's like all of a sudden stripping the clothes off of somebody. You just don't do that. It's rude. It's dishonest. So spirituality to me is my own knowing. Let's put it this way. So you've been brought up in the woods, and you've never met any other human in your life. There's you and your mom and dad and maybe a couple brothers and sisters, and you live off the land. There's no Bible, there's no churches, there's no stores, but in the back of your mind, you know that there's got to be something other than just you on that little parcel of land. There's got to be something that is watching you. There's some kind of consciousness that is there. That is just one of these intuitive type of feelings that we'd all have as a human being, knowing that there is something there.
And another thing too is, I've heard this ever since I was a little kid, since I can remember, that everybody has a guardian angel. And you talk a lot about the reptilians. I wonder almost if it's like that old movie that you see that has a angel of light on the right shoulder and then the devil on the left shoulder. If everybody has a guardian angel, but also everybody has some type of negative anti-presence as well, like a reptilian type thing. That's interesting.
Well, and that's the game of duality, okay? Left and right and wrong, good and bad, light and dark. That we're playing this game of duality, and we can make a choice. As humans, we do have free will. We can make a choice. Listen to the guy in red. Listen to the guy in white. As far as guardian angel, I think that terminology is a little misused, misunderstood. For myself, if I was to say I had a guardian angel, it would be a fellow named Hayden, who to me all of a sudden just showed up in my life. There he was, and he said, I want to talk with you about your work. I want to ask you questions. I want to be kind of part of this. And he just kind of was always there. All of a sudden one day, he realizes I can do this work distance healing. He says, we need to get you on the internet. I'm like, what? Internet radio? Who listens to that hooey? So he took my business for me and created a full scenario that put me where I am today. Now I'm doing the healing work, but how do you let people know about it without having a medium to let people know about it, to educate people? And that's what he did for me. And it's opened up things so wide for me that now I am a worldwide practitioner. I do have clients all over the world. So I can say I am a worldwide practitioner, and people know about me worldwide because of what Hayden did for me. He didn't have to do this. I never asked him to. He just said, we need to do this for you. So guardian angel, you can use that terminology. I mean, it's not negative terminology, but there's always something or someone out there who is in a certain way looking out after you for one way, shape, or form. There is always something looking out for you. I've heard stories from people who were out driving in their car and they were extremely drunk. All of a sudden, they stopped the car and four people get out from another car, and they take the person, put him in the back seat, take the keys out of the car, and leave. And who were these people? Nobody knows. This guy never knew what happened. All of a sudden he realizes, I'm in the back seat of my car, and I could have been driving. I was really drunk. So you got to know that there are, let's say, beings or entities or incarnates that may be looking after you. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube. There's a few specific videos I've seen where there's security cameras, okay, SSTV cameras that are filming an intersection, and something happens at that intersection where somebody should have died, but all of a sudden there's a flash of light and the person's on the other side of the road.
Right.
Okay, those are there, and there's no denying that. If you believe this video, if you see it and say, okay, that's real, what just happened here? Okay, there was some kind of intervention between some kind of being and a human that saved this person's life.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and it just certainly seems like the more aware I become of these possibilities, the less I know. It's amazing these travels that we're taking. So it's awesome, Chris, the stuff that you do. I really appreciate everything. And your website, Chris, Kehler, .com or .net. I'm sorry.
.net. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff there. So I hope people have the opportunity to work with you. And anything else you'd like to share with us?
If you do want to book an appointment, my sessions are only $70 a session. We do a good 50 minutes of work and lots of clearings. And I'm not here to take your money. I'm not going to tell you to do 50 sessions with me. 2, 3, maybe 4 sessions, depending how chronic the problem is, of course, is basically all you're going to need. And I'm not going to sell you hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of herbs, supplements, and make you sign up under a multi-level marketing company, okay? I'm here to help humanity. I'm here to help you with a health problem. I'm here to learn from you, and I'm here to show you that there is a way around your health problem.
And just one last question before we close out tonight. With all the work that you've done over the past 10 years, have you put a number, have you kept records on how many people you've actually been able to help?
That's a good question. And if you right now, if you look at how many people I deal with on a weekly basis, you're looking at 40 people a week. Many of them are second, third, fourth appointments. Half of them are probably new appointments. So we're looking in the hundreds, up to thousands already of people that I've helped. I've never really stopped to calculate that, but I'm sure there's quite a few, and I'm sure there's quite a few that I'd love to have back, because we tried to help them at a certain level. We weren't able to help them, and now we're at that level where we can help them. So I'm sure it's got to be in the thousands.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, folks, appreciate you joining us tonight here on the Leak Project. Make sure to check out Chris at Kehler.net. I'd like to thank the Channy forums, also Project Avalon. You guys are putting our shows up on there on your forums. I appreciate that. And make sure to keep us informed, Chris. I really hope that we have the opportunity to speak with you again sometime.
Let's keep in touch, my brother.
Fantastic. All right. Take care.
Hey folks, Rex Bear here with Leak Project. I'd like to thank you very much for joining us for this broadcast. We have guest Chris Kehler with us tonight. Chris is a holistic practitioner, quantum healer, radio host, researcher, and philosopher. Following a unique system of dowsing, Chris discusses his abilities to pinpoint the root of someone's health problems in a relatively short time. Many of the underlying health issues today, Chris says, is caused by negative energy buildups. Witchcraft, black magic, voodoo, astral tarot cards, and the reptilian influence, or what some call demonic influence. Mr. Kehler pulls away the layers like an onion to discover the key cause. If you'd like to know more about Chris and his techniques for helping others, check out his website at www.chriskehler.net. That's www.chriskehler.net.
Chris, it's awesome to have you on the show tonight with us. How the heck are you?
Hey, Rex, doing perfect. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, fantastic. Really looking forward to it. I know you guys reached out to us here at the Leak Project a little while ago, and I just absolutely love what you do. In many ways, I'm so anti-establishment when it comes to forced vaccines, forced medications. I think that the concept of a vaccine is a good idea, but the stuff that they put in it, like the thimerosal and the squalene and who knows what else is in there, certainly I don't think is a good idea. But so I wanted to talk a little bit about what you do, and if you would tell our listeners about who you are and how you got into this stuff.
Well, my name is Chris Kehler. I'm located in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. As we were just talking about, it's about minus 20 Celsius today, and we're known for being called Winterpeg, and that's why, because it does get that cold here. We like it because it keeps the housing prices way down, so you can buy a real nice house really cheap, okay? I got started in this let's call it a industry about 10 years ago, and before that, I spent the 28 years in the printing industry. And about 10 years ago, my first wife unfortunately passed away. She had a rare disease called scleroderma. And when she passed away, about a year after that, I realized that I was in a position where if I want to stop working, I could stop working if I wanted to. So at 47, I retired. Okay, I was lucky enough to be able to just quit working, live off pensions, and just go. So I found myself going to coffee shops and places where all these old people are talking about nothing at all but their health problems. And I met somebody, make a long story short, I met somebody who does this type of holistic healing, working with the energy, working with muscle testing and different types of modalities to discern what a health problem is. And there was something inside me, and I think we all have this, that told me, Chris, this is something you need to pay a lot of attention to. So I did. And, having nothing better to do because I'm retired at 47, I started taking some courses. I started meeting some people who do this type of work. And I picked up on it really quick. It was really uncanny that I was able to, get to where people took 5 years to do. It took me 6 months to be able to muscle test for herbs and to find health problems and that type of thing. And it just progressed to where I met the people I'm working with now who make the crystalline energy tools that I use, and who have the knowledge and the insights to go to certain levels within the universal energies to know how to work with it, how to manipulate it, how to use it for you and against you and that type of thing, and to actually get rid of a health problem, number one, and number two, be able to actually give a person a diagnosis that's real, that's 100%, that's not something made up by the medical community to make themselves sound smart.
Well, when I was looking at your website too, there's so many new age practitioners out there that say, hey, you just tell me what your name is and your birth date, and I'm going to send you energy and heal you. And there's a lot of disinformation out there. So it can make a lot of people extremely skeptical. And one of the things I really like about your website, Chris, is when you go on there, you can look at like the different pictures of problems that people might have. If you look at it under a microscope, their blood, I'm referring to. So
Yes.
you're actually getting into some of the scientific stuff here. And I appreciate that. But what I think would be great to bring up here at the beginning, if we could, especially for the skeptics out there, is what exactly is it that you do? I mean, if quantum healing, obviously, if you know much about, or even just a little bit about quantum physics, you know that everything is connected at some point. And with that being the case, that would explain how somebody could transfer energy or consciousness to something else and cause healing. But, explain quantum healing to us and get into some details with us, if you would, please.
Okay, there's there's a few general ways I like to use to describe exactly what's happening. The way I do my work is, number one, I use a system with a pendulum and a series of charts that I've developed to dig deep into the whole concept of what is your health problem. So if you have cancer, what is your cancer? What is causing it? What's all the underlying causes behind it? And it goes from everything from negative energies such as witchcraft, voodoo, ET, aliens, and so forth that are in part of the health problem. And then we get into things like fungus and mold and reasons why the cells are mutating, and it gets into those depths. And the pendulum that I use shows me exactly what it is, and it gets there very quickly. Sometimes it takes a few sessions to help somebody. Sometimes one session makes a big difference. But with somebody's health problem, there's always many layers to it. And that's what we do is we peel away all the layers, ask the questions with the pendulum, get the answers. And then when I do find out what the problem is, we need to get rid of it. Now, here's the woo-woo part, is what a lot of people call it, is what I do is I use sacred geometry. This I'm holding up is called a Vesica Pisces. It's a form of a pyramid, okay? And this facilitates the 4D and 5D energies that are now in the planet, and it also facilitates the feminine energy that's in the planet. And what I do is I hold this up to the camera, and 99% of all my clientele are in other cities and countries. And so this is called distance healing, okay? In Winnipeg, people just aren't into this, so I rarely have somebody in my office. So we do this on Skype and on the telephone. I have clients all over the world, the Middle East, the UK, Australia, lots in California. People in California are crazy about this stuff because it works. Now, what I do is I make intent. Everything in our lives is all about intent and thought. Our thoughts are so incredibly powerful that we can actually intend that somebody gets sick. We can intend that somebody gets healthy. We can intend that we're financially stable. We can intend that anything happens in our lives just by our thoughts and the way we project them. So that's what we're basically doing, is taking a thought and intent and magnifying it, amplifying it through this device into the system to move out a stressor. So let's say I'm working with you, you have pain in the right side of your abdomen, and my pendulum says that you have a virus, a shingles virus in your liver. So all I do is I take the pyramid, hold it up to the camera, and I tell the virus to go away. I say, in the liver, shingles virus, false. I say the word false. The frequency of this virus no longer then exists. And for the most part, probably 90% of all people feel that pain go away almost immediately. They feel a change in their energy, and that is a telltale sign that the energy is moving. Things are happening. So that's the basis. It kind of works along with the law of attraction. If you can envision the law of attraction, you put out a positive thought that you want something to come into your life. This is working basically with those same God energies that are there for us humans to utilize. It's a gift for humanity to be able to manifest whatever it is we need in our life. And if manifesting good health is one of them, that's where I specialize, is to help manifest your health to get better.
Well, and I remember back in 2009, I read a book called Pyramid Power by Patrick Flanagan, and it talked about the sacred geometry, and if you build a pyramid to a specific, to certain specifications and had it aligned to magnetic north, then it would actually create a harmonious environment, almost feng shui-like. There was a lot of data in there where they did experiments where they would put a pyramid over one part of the house. If there were pets there, the pets would always go sleep under the pyramid. And a patent that came out, I think it was in Czechoslovakia or something like that in the the late 30s. It was a little carton that somehow kept razor blades sharp longer. So I started doing some experiments, and I had an opportunity to pick up some pyramids by Nick, the pyramid guy, and I got a 42-inch one and a few other ones, and I just checked out the effects of it. I can't get into too much scientific data, but I can tell you this: we had a cat, and the cat would always go under the pyramid, and it was so it was pretty cool. We moved it around, and it would kind of follow it. So I think that there's some neat things there. But I'm just wondering how it actually affects somebody, if it's the vibrational frequencies or what.
Well, there again is a lot of different theories as to what's happening, what's it doing, and it's for the most part, it's all about